Aloha, aloha, aloha. Welcome back to the Real Trash Podcast, everybody. Thank you. Welcome to any new followers on here that have not been able to watch the Real Trash Podcast yet. Welcome, welcome, welcome. And to the older followers, the beginning followers, welcome back to another podcast episode. And yes, the Real Trash Podcast is all about trashy subjects, from politics to celebrity news to Disney news. Um, and yeah, that's a big one we like to talk about is politics on here. And sometimes we talk about my daily lives, and sometimes there's other topics we talk about. And every week, after the week is done, we throw it in the trash. We throw this episode in the trash, and we don't remember this episode, and we continue on to another episode next week. And there's two main things on this podcast that I like to talk about a lot. And so number two, if you know you're old to the podcast, yes, the number two topic I talk about here on the time is woman empowerment. And I want to be able to show people, tell people how women can do roles such as CEOs and be queens and be the president of the United States one day. So I will not stop talking until we get somebody that is a woman, that is the president of the United States. Because I believe that I believe strongly in woman empowerment, and letting them succeed just like a man. And I'm telling this to a lot of men too, that we should be able to let women have these roles. And if you're that controlling, men out there, I don't know what to say about that, girl. Girl, I disagree with that man. Okay. And then the number one topic we talk about on this podcast, if you're older to my podcast, do you know the do you know what it is? Do you know what the number one topic is? Yes, it's disability. And that is the biggest topic I like to talk about on this podcast. And hi, my name is Noah James Markham. I'm from Honolulu, Hawaii. I was born in 1998. April 14, 1998. Ooh, my birthday's coming up real soon, girl. Girl, it is coming up real soon. But yes, it's coming up soon. And I was born in April 14th, 1998. And yes, my mom had a C-section with me. And I was diagnosed with hard of hearing. And hard of hearing is a hearing loss, almost to death, but I can still hear a little bit, but I can't hear it like a normal person. I couldn't hear like that. My hearing is close to death still. So I do have to wear accessories and that to go on my hearings to be able to hear, and they're called hearing aids. And I use them to hear. Yeah, so that is one of my disabilities I have, and I've had that through my whole life. And then in 2014, I was diagnosed with autism, on the autistic spectrum. Later on in my life, on the high frequency level, I guess I was diagnosed that way. So that I think that's more complicated in my life is the autistic spectrum. That was more complex, I guess. And then we have intellectual disabilities too, learning disabilities, and that's where I might need help in my classrooms, or I might need help into my testing area, different kinds of accommodation. Maybe need help with an interpreter. I need an interpreter in my classroom, a sign language interpreter. And one more thing I forgot to talk, speaking about a sign language interpreter, that yes, I'm hard of hearing, and what the beauty about it is I'm the only one in my family that knows sign language, and American Sign Language is a language we use with our hands to talk to deaf people or even hard of hearing people. In the ASL deaf community, we talk with our hands. Um, and just in different other communities, like the Chinese community or the Korean community, they use their own language. Well, we use our own hands to talk to and communicate. So I have a deaf friend that I've been friends with for so long, and I'm very grateful for our friendship. And we communicate, and she communicates. I communicate to her fiance, but she's better at communicating to him. So because she knows him better than me. So yes, awesome. So and everybody is welcome to my channel. I love diversity, and if I cannot hear that word, I'm kind of surprised. Like I'm like, no, I have to hear diversity. I love diversity. I love gay people, straight people, bi people, transgender people. You are all welcome onto my channel. Like I said, I'm from Honolulu, Hawaii. I'm from the Rainbow State. If you did not know that, yes, I'm from the Rainbow State. So I love all the colors of the rainbow. So don't be afraid to be here. And yeah, so welcome, welcome, welcome. Today, we are going to be talking about a few things um, on our radar. And yes, we're going to be talking about the disability community. And I'm so excited to be back with you guys on another podcast episode. It's been a minute, it's been a crazy week, girl. And I'm just happy to be back on another podcast episode with everybody, the Real Trash Podcast followers. It's been a crazy week, like I said, and there's been a lot of things, a lot of tension with. We're going to be talking about a lot of politics today. That is a big thing, and um, so let's get in it today with the politics, and also we will be talking about the disability community today that are very trashy, that I cannot believe that these are things are happening, but I can also believe it because the MAGA extreme Republicans have had this notion that they can be cruel to people like this in the disability community. And I don't know if they never learned, or I don't know why they're so cruel to other human beings, especially my community and the disability community. It's just not right. So let's get into the first story before we get into the disability community. And this, Donald Trump, our president right now, girl. And I saw this because before I left the house, I think it was a few days ago, and I was watching the news on CNN. And, we have a war going on with Russia. Ukraine is having a war with Russia, and U.S. has been helping um, Ukraine to defeat um, President Putin in Russia. He's a dictator. He is not good for society, um, and America doesn't like that. Um, and so, President Trump invited Zelensky over from Ukraine over to have a discussion, and it was very heated. And I was very, what are the words? I was very worried, very concerned that President Trump had the notion to not have the respect. Um, and you can watch it on CNN. They had a Oval Office meeting with Vice President. Um, what's his name? I can't even remember his name. What's his name? Vance, Vice President. Vice President Vance was in the Oval Office, and there was Marco Rubio. Marco Rubio was there too. Um, and yeah, so they had a meeting with President Zelensky, and there was like a fight, tension, and the blaming game was going on with Donald Trump saying Biden did everything and Biden did this. If you Biden, we could have put out way long. It just kept on going, and I know Donald Trump likes to be a dictator, and that's something that we don't need in America. And we also don't stand for dictatorship in America. And we also do not stand for Russia. We've been with Ukraine the whole time. And Ukraine was explaining a lot of things that it wasn't Biden. And, but Trump just had that notion and had that disrespect towards Zelensky, towards a different country, pushed him a few times. And I just felt as an American and watching a president do that, um, it's just not presentable. And also being able to watch over the country watching that, and plus other countries watching that, it's just know that it's sunk in me that that was not right. And that is not America. So I don't want people that there are human beings like Donald Trump that are miserable, mean, and or that want to hate other people just because they want to hate other people or want to cause chaos because they want to cause chaos. You do not have to agree with them. You also do not have to stick around it. You do not also have to come into that negativity. You can be that person to change that persona, that change that narrative, and you can be that positive person and put some positivity if you want to put your side away from that negativity. Um, but it was just an embarrassment to be able to talk to our high chief, the president of the United States, talking to another country prime minister. It was just a disaster. And that was just awful to see as an American to watch that. So we're going to read a little bit more into it. So Ukraine President Volodymyr Zelensky says U.S. support is a crucial a day after cutting short a visit. This is after the argument they had. So Ukraine President Volodymyr Zelensky says U.S. support is crucial a day after cutting short a visit to Washington, D.C. following an extraordinary public argument with Donald Trump. A meeting intended to discuss a natural resource deal imploded, with Trump and Vice President J.D. Vance berating the Ukrainian leader in front of reporters in the Oval Office. At one point, when Zelensky tried to respond, an angry Trump accused him of gambling with World War III. Gambling with World War III. That's how crazy President Trump is. And Europe already rattled by Trump's overtures to Russia, President Vladimir Putin quickly rallied around Zelensky, with the European Union's top diplomat, Kaja Kallas, saying in a statement that it's clear that the free world needs a new leader. On Saturday, Zelensky appeared contrary when he posted on social media after arriving in London to meet UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer. It's crucial for us to have President Trump support, Zelensky said in a series of posts on X on Saturday morning. He wants to end the war, but no one wants peace more than we do. Zelensky emphasized his gratitude for the U.S. backing of Ukraine in the 3 years since Russia invaded his country. In Friday's fiery exchange, Vance questioned whether the Ukrainian leader had been thankful enough for U.S. support. We are very grateful to the United States for all the support. I'm thankful for President Trump, Congress for their bipartisan support, and as American people. Ukrainians have always appreciated this support, especially during the 3 years of full scale invasion, Zelensky curated in his post on social media. The Ukrainian leader stressed that despite Friday's clash, Ukrainian and the US remain strategic partners. But we need to be honest and direct with each other to truly understand our shared goals. He said that Ukraine is ready to sign the minerals agreement and he had traveled to the US to hammer out, but noted that it's not enough, highlighting the absence of the security guarantees he's been seeking. We need more than just that. A ceasefire without security guarantees is dangerous for Ukraine. We've been fighting for 3 years, and Ukraine people need to know that America is on our side, Zelensky said. Starmer told Zelensky Saturday that Ukraine has the UK's full backing as they met at the British leader's official residence in London. Starmer expressed his unwavering support for Ukraine, according to an official readout of the meeting from Downing Street. The two leaders signed an agreement to accelerate 2.8 billion worth of loans to Ukraine to be paid off by frozen sovereign Russian asset. Zelensky said the funds would go towards the production of weapons in Ukraine and added that he and Starmer spoke about reliable security guarantees. Zelensky also announced that King Charles had accepted an invitation to meet on Sunday. Zelensky UK trip comes ahead of a summit of European leaders on Sunday, which was announced amid growing concern that the Trump administration push to work with Russia could exclude Ukraine from deciding its own fate. Just last week, Trump wrongly accused Ukraine of starting the war with Russia and called Zelensky a dictator. The week before, he said that Ukraine may be Russian someday. When discussing what has now become the minerals agreement, Russian officials reacted with glee to Friday's fractious meeting. Dmitry Medvedev, the former Russian president, said Zelensky had finally got a proper slapdown in the Oval Office. And so this is what I mean. Donald Trump likes a dictator, and he's a dictator himself. So he likes the dictator on the outside, um, Russia. And what is crazy about it is you see what the former Russian president said Zelensky had finally got a proper slapdown in the Oval Office. So there has to be a communication between Russia and Donald Trump. Putin and Donald Trump, we know that the election was stolen when Hillary and Donald Trump were running against each other. There was a whole Russia thing that happened. And if you know about the story, Donald Trump doesn't claim anything, but we know there's a lot to do with Russia in that election cycle. Meanwhile, a flurry of Western countries took to act to show their staunch support for Kyiv. A joint statement by the leaders of European Union said that Zelensky's dignity honors the bravery of the Ukrainian people. NATO chief Mark Rutte called the fractious Zelensky-Trump meeting very unfortunate. Yeah, it is very unfortunate. It's so unfortunate that this has happened. In an interview with BBC News, Root added that it is important that President Zelensky finds a way to restore his relationship with the American president and with senior American leadership. And that is it. And I hope that America will come through and but I just it's so awful to see that happen. I'm so sorry to Ukraine, to the Prime Minister of Ukraine. I am so sorry that you have to go through this and have lost all these lives from the dictator of Russia and the President of the United States. It's just not the right kind of President of the United States. And I'm so sorry that you have to be in this situation. And as an American, I have to say that um, I just have to say sorry for um, what happened to that President Trump meeting, because it's not every president like that. And unfortunately, we have a dictator president right now that's in office. And I hope that I mean, I wish that it didn't have to be like this, but I hope that the other alliances that you have with the NATO community will help you stay strong in the battle with Russia, because as I can already see, I can see it, I can picture it, and I can see Russia on Donald Trump's side, and that scares me a lot. So, and he's dictating a lot with Donald Trump. So, we know we have to take care of America and keep safe. And I hope a lot of people keep safe too, in America too. So, yeah, um, we will keep on fighting the fight. I know I will have that fight for Ukrainians, the support for you guys, okay? And then we're talking about fights, y'all. We're talking about fights, y'all, okay? And we're talking about disability stuff right now, okay? And there's Medicaid, and then there's Medicare when you get disability, Social Security. And as Republicans, MAGA Republicans, and um, they're doing trashy things to the disability community. And this is a shame that this has happened, but I'm going to talk about it because these are happening right now. And yeah, so let's get on it. So, what is Medicaid, and why is it a Republican target for cuts? And I don't understand why there's cuts to it, because these people that live on Social Security need their money, need their Medicare, need their Medicaid. So, they need these for themselves. And it's an essential need. It might be hard to get super interested in the back and forth of the budget bills bouncing around Capitol Hill, but they could have huge consequences for Americans' everyday lives. And this is so true. Huge consequences for American everyday lives. Not just, but this is for the disability Americans' everyday lives. House Republicans found a way to start the ball rolling Tuesday by convincing all but one Republican to buy in a budget bill. The first step in a process exempt from the filibuster in the Senate to extend trillions in expiring tax cuts originally passed during the first Trump administration. But in order to offset those tax cuts, Republicans need to find cuts. One option being seriously considered is to squeeze up to 88 billion from federal programs over 10 years, including Medicaid. The House and Senate will come up with dueling proposals. Democrats won't be voting for Medicaid cuts anytime soon, and even Republicans talk about the support for the program, but which states use federal dollars to help offer health insurance to their low income residents. Pledges not to cut Medicaid. In Missouri, for instance, more than one fifth of the population is on Medicaid. So, conservative Senator Josh Hawley, a Missouri Republican, doesn't want to see cut, at least not for people who are working. Anything that slashes into benefits for people who are working, I'm not going to be for. And I think that's probably going to be true for a lot of my colleagues, he told CNN Manu Raju on Wednesday. President Donald Trump has also promised repeatedly not to cut Medicaid, Medicare, or Social Security, and he bristled when a reporter asked him about it during a cabinet meeting at the White House on Wednesday. I have said it so many times, you shouldn't be asking me that question, okay? This won't be read my lips, Trump said, referring to the infamous flip flop that may have cost President George H.W. Bush re election in 1992. He pledged, read my lips that he wouldn't raise taxes. But then, in order to address an untenable government spending situation, Bush went back on that promise. Trump did leave himself major wiggle room. Now we are going to look for fraud. I'm sure you're okay with that, he said. I went to CNN Tammy Luby to get her expert input on the Medicaid is how it's funded and what changes to the program would mean. Our conversation conducted by email is below. So yeah, and that's a lot of stuff that's iffy about the Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security. There's a lot of fraud, and I bet there is, but to cut the Medicaid and whoever's getting it right now, it just doesn't seem right. And it also doesn't seem right with the fraud too. So there's complications with it, and there could be a lot of people on Social Security that should not be on it, but they're taking abuse of the system, and so we need to solve that out. Because if a disabled person like me, my whole life, can't even get on Social Security, that question is in my mind a lot. Like, wow, that's crazy. I can't even get it. Medicaid, what is Medicaid? How does it fit into the social safety net in the US? Medicaid is a key component of the nation's social safety net. It provides health insurance to low income Americans. Now, low income Americans, that's a big thing too. There's low income Americans that need the money. They need the money. Americans who meet the eligibility criteria, and there is no cap on enrollment, unlike some other public assistance programs. What portion of the country gets its health coverage from Medicaid, and who generally are the people covered? This is a good one for people to know. More than 72 million people have health insurance through Medicaid. That's more than 1 in 5 Americans. It covers children, senior citizens, people with disabilities, people with disability, unlike me though, because apparently I can't get it. Parents and adults with dependents. In addition, more than 7.2 million children are enrolled in the Children's Health Insurance Program because their family incomes are too high to qualify for Medicaid. Medicaid provides health insurance for about 2 in 5 children and also cover about 40% of all births, according to KFF, a nonpartisan health policy research group. It has also covered more than 60% of nursing home residents and nearly 30% of non-elderly adults with mental illness, as well as about 1 in 3 people with disabilities. Plus, it pays for substance abuse treatment. How does the coverage vary from state to state? Medicare coverage varies widely by state, both in terms of benefits and eligibility criteria. All states must cover certain benefits, but they also add additional ones such as prescription drugs, vision and dental services, and home care. Some are also broadening their benefits to cover housing and certain foods. Income limits also differ by state. 40 states, plus the District of Columbia, have expanded Medicaid under the Affordable Care Act, allowing adults with incomes up to 138% of the federal poverty level to qualify. That's about $21,600 for an individual, or about $44,400 for a family of 4 in 2025. In non-expansion states, the income caps can also vary. For instance, the limit for parents in a family of 3 ranges from 15% of the federal poverty level in Texas to 105% in Tennessee, according to KFF. Medicare and Social Security have trust funds that are funded in part by taxes. How is Medicaid funded? Medicaid is jointly funded by the federal government and states. The federal government provides a 90% match for enrollees in Medicaid expansion. while the match for traditional beneficiaries varies based on a state's per capita income, with a minimum of match of 50%. Some states also charge enrollees nominal co-pays for certain services. What's the cost of Medicaid to taxpayers each year, and why do Republicans think that the place to cut in order to pay for a tax cut? Medicaid spending totaled 80 $880 billion in fiscal year 2023, with the federal government picking up about 69% of the cost and states about 31%. It accounts for nearly $1 in $5 spent on the health care in the US. Republicans have long sought to shrink Medicaid, particularly for the expansion population, in addition to thinking the program is rife with waste, fraud, and abuse. Many feel that able bodied adults should work in exchange for receiving government assistance. Now, there's things that I could agree that people should be working, and some people like me kind of get disability benefit. Um, I kind of get it. So it's just there's certain things. What do we know about how the proposed cuts could affect Medicaid coverage? And this is very important. The House and Senate GOP bills differs greatly in terms of potential cuts to Medicaid, with the House looking at much deeper reduction. We don't have concrete proposals yet, but House Republicans floated a menu of options earlier this year that could cut a few trillion dollars from the program. Few trillion dollars. Among the most consequential ideas are instituting work requirements, reducing the federal match for the expansion population, and establishing a per capita cap for federal funding. Though Trump and several GOP lawmakers have recently said they don't want to cut Medicaid, the option the House is considering would deeply slash Medicaid spending and would most likely result in many people losing their health coverage. Adding work requirements, which several states tried to do in the first Trump administration, only to be blocked in federal court, could put as many as 36 million people at risk of losing their benefits. No, it's not like 1 million. It's not like 100. It's not like 10. 36 million people are at risk of losing their benefits. That's a lot. According to the left leaning Center on Budget and Policy Priorities, reducing the 90% Medicaid expansion match to a state rate for its traditional Medicaid enrollees could prompt many states to drop out of the expansion program, since they have to make up the difference. That could reduce Medicaid spending by 1.9 trillion over a decade, over nearly one fifth. If all states ended their expansion coverage, up to 20 million people could lose their benefits, according to KFF. That's 20 billion, 20 million, 20 million people could lose their benefits. And instituting a per capita cap in which states would get a set amount of federal funding based on enrollment instead of an open-ended stream could reduce federal expenditures by between 532 billion and 1 trillion over a decade, and result in as many as 50 million people losing their coverage by 2034. KFF found the growth in federal funding would be limited to the rate of medical inflation, which critics say would squeeze the program over time. What do we know about wasteful Medicaid spending? The Medicaid improper payment rate was nearly 5.1%, or just over $31 million for 2024, with the majority of improper payments resulting from insufficient documents, according to the Center of Medicare and Medicaid Services. That's down from nearly 8.6% the prior year. These payments are not necessarily a result of fraud or abuse, the agency said. However, the Government Accountability Office has said that Medicaid is susceptible to improper payments and potential mismanagement, as well as waste, fraud, and abuse. The program accounted for more than 21% of the federal government's improper payments in 2023 and is on the GAO's high risk list. How popular is Medicaid? More than three-quarters of Americans have a favorable view of Medicaid, according to Trafficking poll from January. That includes 63% of Republicans and 81% of independents and 87% Democrat. As part of their effort in repeal and replace the Affordable Care Act in 2017, congressional Republicans tried to make changes to and cut federal spending on Medicaid. The efforts were among the reasons why the party lost control of the House in the midterm election the following year. So that is the update on what the Republicans are doing and what is going on right now. What they're trying to do, they're trying to target cut too many Americans, and yeah, I'm very concerned. So I am so sorry that this is going on. I'm also so sorry for the people that have disabilities that had it their whole lives but haven't been able to go on Social Security. And so there is a lot of things that has to be looked into. But the Trump administration is one part that and not doing a very good job at their job, and I just feel sorry for the millions and billions of people that are on Medicaid, Medicare, um, that have a risk now of losing their benefits, um, and I'm so sorry for that. Um, but keep in the fight, you guys out there, and yeah. Also, in my state of Arizona, we have MAGA Republicans that are crazy, outrageous too. Like I said, every MAGA is crazy, okay? They all bow down to Trump, as I can see. So, this is what's happening in Arizona, the capital of Arizona. We're talking about a death sentence. Family plead for fix the budget crisis for disability services. Phoenix families and advocates from Arizonans with disabilities rallied at the Arizona State Capitol on Wednesday, calling for a fix for a budget shortfall threatening crucial state services. The Division of Developmental Disability, that's the DDD, Developmental Disability, which I didn't quantify or I didn't have enough document to say, and that's mean how the heck do I not developmental disability? Like hard of hearing is a developmental disability. Like, what do you mean? Like I have hard of hearing? You saw proof for that? I don't know how I don't quantify. Like there's just things that don't add up, right? And like I said, there's a lot of miscommunication. I don't know if it's in the jobs or what it is, but there needs to be a change. Is on track. So the Division of Developmental Disabilities is on track to run out of money in late April, a little more than 2 months before the state's next budget kicks in. The program, which is sort about 122 million, serves more than 559,000 people with developmental disabilities and their families. These services are not luxuries, said Gabriel Fitchy, the co-founder of Care for the Caregivers and a therapist. They are what allow disabled people to be contributing valued members of their society. Slashing funding for the DDD won't solve the problem, said Kathleen Muldoon, a parent of a disabled child and doctor. She's a parent of a disabled child and a doctor. She's a doctor too that's talking about it. There could be a lot of things about that doctor. I know, but Let's say he's disabled. So let's just not even assume something. People with disabilities cannot reduce their needs by 25% to 50%. She said their medical conditions won't pause. Their care requirements won't shrink. Courtney Burnett said her daughter needs help with every task and depends on specialized care. We're not talking about inconveniences, as some representatives have indicated, she said. We're talking about a death sentence for people like my daughter and many others. House Republican lawmakers continue to blame on each other. Government Governor Katie Hobbs and state lawmakers continued on Wednesday to point fingers at each other over the budget impasse, with both sides saying the other needs to come to the negotiation table. Hobbs told reporters she is willing to work with Republican lawmakers on a solution. They won't send me anything to negotiate on, she said. They know where my position is, they have my budget, and they just saying no, 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 no. And that's frustrating to hear from Republicans. No, 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 no. What if you had a child that was disabled? What if you were disabled? Like, I think some people don't understand it. And even people that have disabled child don't like the disabled child, or they still don't understand it. Like, it's just a lot complicated, right? But Republicans House lawmakers say her staff has refused to meet with them. Something House Appropriation Chair David Livingston confirmed to ABC 15 Wednesday night. Livingston, who represents the legislative District 28, sent Hobbs a letter Monday asking for discussion on the DDD budget. Rather than engaging with the legislator is good faith, you and your staff have chosen to issue public statements, assign blame, and demand more taxpayer dollars without addressing the broken system that led us here, he wrote. On Wednesday, Hobbs called on Republican lawmakers to send her a budget proposal, saying her plan kicked off the budget process. I presented my budget. She said, if they have other ideas, they should give me a budget instead. They said they want this to be part of the larger budget negotiation going on the Capitol. Then get me a budget. She has also said lawmakers should have passed funding legislation to cover the shortfall, noting that such supplemental funding measures were passed in every year of previous government Doug Ducey's term. In a statement to ABC 15, the Department of Economic Services, which oversees DDD, and it supports the Haas budget plan, but it also preparing for the possibility of no additional funding. In the Department of Economic Security, that is where you go and get your food stamp. You need help with um, developmental disability. That's the whole company. Department of Economic Security is the name, and then there's other things under it, and that's DDD under it. But it's also preparing for possibility of no additional funding. DDD is the process of working through several financial management and cash flow options to mitigate potential negative impacts should the legislature not agree to provide timely supplemental funding for this fiscal year, the statement said. The ES said the increase in DDD's costs have been driven by several factors, including considerable growth in the number of people served, more services being used, higher costs, and reductions in federal funding. These are real human lives. This is a big statement. These are real human lives. Not fake, real human lives that are dealing with these things every day. And I'm dealing with them every day too. But I don't get the services, even though when I'm a disabled child, they think I'm normal. But I have a lot of things that I don't get. And through the school system, from college, it's a whole thing's work. It's just a disaster for me. So, and it's just, I need to keep in the fight, and I want to talk about this stuff, to get people in this fight, to understand what a life of me that I have to go through with not getting any of these services as an adult. And just imagine if I was more crucial disabled, what the consequences would be for me. I think I wouldn't have that help. And, it's just, and to see more crucial people than me out there that are on it, any services with the disability, DDD, with DES, or with Social Security, I'm scared and I'm so sorry. Families that depend on DDD services say a 2-month shutdown would be devastating to both them and Arizona's caregiver network. Moden said the loss would create a ripple effect of increased public spending, higher hospital costs, housing instability, and economic strain on families and communities alike. They urged members of both parties to find a solution, saying it should not be a partisan issue. Remember, these are real human lives, Bernard said, adding that disabled Arizonans are more than a budget item. Did you hear that? Adding that disabled Arizonans are more than a budget item. They can't be put on a budget sheet. Period. Can't be put on a budget sheet. Period. You guys, like, this is crucial to Arizona, to go get engaged with your lawmakers. Go call your lawmakers. Go talk to um, your representatives in your state. Um, and talk to them. Don't talk to the Republicans. I saw there was a disabled person that talked to a Republican. And I think she smokes weed too. Though sometimes you kind of go local, if you know what local means, it's cuckoo in Espanol. But not everybody does. Some people can be normal. That's another issue for another day. But yeah, so I'm so sorry that Arizonans, everyday Americans, that this disabled community is just, we're real humans, and I want people to know that I'm a real human too, just like everybody else. I may have more difficulties and everything, but that doesn't mean that I cannot do things like other people. And there's other people that can do things like me. There's other disabled people that are way worse that need more help and more assistance. And I worry for my community a lot. And that's why I started this podcast, so people know about these things. And, there's just other people that take advantage of the system and will never understand why you would crucially do something that my community, and why would you just fake something to get money? It's just inhumane to see somebody do that and try to get money and act like you're disabled. Um, and then there's people that really need it, and it's inhumane. You see lawmakers that can't get along with people with disabilities that really need these needs. Just imagine if you were that disabled person and you had no services and somebody cut your services off. That means if you had diabetes, for example, and you need your insulin, and they cut that off. Just imagine that, and you needed that to survive every day, and they cut it off and said, "Oh no, we can't get a budget through because it's just, it doesn't make sense why we have, because we need to cut the spending for disabled people because um because they're not spending the or something. I don't know. Like, it's just not. These are real human beings, and I'm a real human being. And I'm going to say that again. I'm a real human being, and I'm a strong supporter of the disabled community, and especially Arizona. And I'm so sorry that we have to go through this, but keep in the fight, and I will keep in the fight with the podcast, the Real Trash Podcast. And I just thank you all for being in this fight with me. And thank you for watching my Real Trash Podcast. To all my followers too. And I just want people to know that I think I already said that. I'm going to keep it that. I'm a real human being. I'm a disabled person. And no, this has not always been in my head. I've had hard of hearing my whole life, but also I don't sit in the I just like no. I actually do things on the go. Like I'm always doing things. I'm always trying to help people in the community that I have to fight for because they can't have a job, and all these other managers, CEOs, lawmakers think that they can take advantage of my life. No, you're not going to make those people miserable, these disabled people miserable, because you just want the money. No, it doesn't work that way with me. I have a true heart. And if you see that heart in a kind of person like me, you will understand. And I hope a lot of people, disabled people, non-disabled people, understand that kind of humane society we the kind of society we have should have as hearts, and be able to share that with the world, the positivity, and care about each other, love each other, and take that negativity away, choose the hatred away. um, Always will be in support for disabled people in my community. So thank you so much for watching the Real Trash Podcast episode today. Thank you for the new followers that are following my Real Trash Podcast episodes and listening to them. Thank you for the old followers to my Real Trash Podcast followers. Thank you so much, you guys. And I also thank my Ohana Angels on my YouTube channel. Whenever I post a YouTube video, hopefully we'll have a YouTube video soon, but we've been on the podcast, so we've been busy. I usually do it. My podcast episodes usually come out on Sundays, and then they usually come out on Sundays, and sometimes I'll do it on Monday. So Sunday, Monday, there's usually maybe one or two episodes. Maybe I'll have one on Monday instead of Sunday. So I want you guys to know that there is a consistency. I usually have Sunday or Monday. So you will see them out on Sunday and Mondays. Once only one day, or maybe I'll have it 2 days. It'd be a surprise video if I have it 2 days. It'd be surprising. But I thank you, YouTube followers, and get other people to watch. Subscribe to my YouTube videos. Watch my Real Trash Podcast, and thank you for watching my YouTube reels, my YouTube videos, and I thank you to the Real Trash Podcast followers. Yes, sir. Thank you so much for being on another Real Trash Podcast episode with me. And we're going to throw it in the trash because this is something we don't need to be talking about. But yes, go talk to your lawmakers about these things. And keeping this fight disabled people, the disability community, because I am staying in the fight. And the fight is not done. And yes, so at the end of my videos, I always say Ohana Angels or Real Trash Podcast followers. What do I say? Always be yourself. Ahubio, and always be yourself. Love y'all. And I'll see you on the next episode. Love y'all. Bye. Have a good week. Bye-bye. Woohoo. Bye-bye.